For Victims and Villains, my name is Josh. Today we're heading to the Wasteland to talk about Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, is the origin story of the Charlize Theron character Furiosa from 2015's Mad Max, this time played by Anya Taylor-Joy. This could end up being one of the best movies of the year. One of the most striking things about Mad Max Fury Road was not the first Mad Max film made in over 3 decades, but it had a very beautiful cinematography, a very specific color palette, a very visual aesthetic, and it was immersive in that way. It's been 9 long years since Fury Road, and I'm happy to report that that same visual immersive style, visually speaking, is brought to Furiosa. I think that visual storytelling, that immersive way that Miller as a director and storyteller is able to take his audience and bring them into this world that doesn't just feel like you're watching a movie, but rather experiencing it, really helps elevate the storytelling, the performances, and every aspect of this. And performances across the board in this are just absolutely fantastic. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of my favorite actresses working in Hollywood right now, and I think she absolutely crushes it as Furiosa. I kind of had an inkling and a hypothesis that she would, taking the reins from Theron, but she just does such a masterful job. Chris Hemsworth is a really interesting actor for me to consider personally. I think that he's never kind of found his footing outside of the MCU, and even as Thor, I think he does what he does well. But even now, it kind of feels a little bit tiresome that he's been playing the character for so long. But I would dare to say that this is maybe not a career best performance for Hemsworth, but definitely within the top 3 conversation for best performances of his career. I think for me, what really makes a memorable villain is a villain that can walk that line between sinister and really terrifying, and also on the flip side of that, be flamboyant with a little bit of camp, and you kind of just walk that line unsuspecting with your audience of which side they're gonna get. And that's personally what I loved about Hemsworth in this role, that he walks that line so perfectly, that there are scenes in this movie where he is genuinely a terrifying villain, and then there are also scenes in this movie where he's very fun, very campy, very flamboyant. And I think that that just kind of presented an unpredictable element to the movie that really kept me on the edge of my seat and really had my eyes glued to Hemsworth as a character. I love the way that Miller as a storyteller really built up the Furiosa role. One thing that I really love about these Mad Max movies is that they are movies that really breathe and allow their stories to be told, whereas sometimes stories of this epic scale, you're trying to get through it as quick as possible, and you're not allowing your audience to kind of soak in the epic scale of this world that you're trying to build and the story that you're telling. I think we saw it really spectacularly in Fury Road, where that was a movie that had a really simple narrative and it allowed itself to breathe. And I think you find that again in Furiosa, taking into consideration that we are essentially seeing her as a child grown into a full woman, and typically it's kind of done through montages. And one of the things that I really love about the way that Miller tells this story is that you don't have that here. I was honestly really surprised by how long we spent with the Furiosa character as a child. But again, I really appreciated it in hindsight because it made some of the finale moments in this movie, kind of the climax of that much sweeter. I love the juxtaposition too between Taylor-Joy and Hemsworth as characters. This is probably one of the strongest chapters in the Mad Max saga. And honestly, if I had one complaint about this movie, it's not the pacing, it's not the runtime, it's not the acting, it's none of that. It is these weird little digital decisions that they make. There are painfully obvious moments within this movie that are like so CGI heavy. And it feels really weird to say about a Mad Max movie because up to this point, for the majority of these movies, Miller has always opted to go practical. But there are some really painfully obvious green screen and surprising like character decisions and placements for certain sequences that just feel like it feels really weird decision to use green screen for what they use it for. And it feels even weirder to say that they didn't do a good job at editing it. It's very obvious. But with that said, I am ready to run this one through our Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Furiosa a Mad Max Saga a 4.5 out of 5. I think this is going to end up being one of the strongest films of the year, without a doubt. This movie is visually satisfying. It is an sprawling epic filled to the brim with one of Chris Hemsworth's best performance, an exceptional performance by Anya Taylor-Joy, builds the world out really well, and it just breathes, and it's spectacular with every breath it takes. If you guys have seen Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga, what did you guys think? Comment below and let me know. But let's talk about mental health. If you guys are new to our content, Mental Health Moment is where we take a theme of mental health out of the film which we're reviewing, talk about it for a few moments in the hopes to deconstruct the stigma surrounding mental health. And much like her character arc throughout the course of Fury Road, there is one thing, one piece of hope that keeps Furiosa reaching for every moment, reaching for every day in the depression era that is the Wasteland. Life is going to suck. It is inevitable. It is one of those things. And if you're going through a period, if you're going through a struggle right now, do what Furiosa does. Pinpoint one thing, whether that is a movie that you're looking forward to, the release of an album from a band that you love, a getting to see your girlfriend, getting to see your boyfriend, your partner, whatever, and just focus and just count down on that and let that be your light to guide you through. Sometimes it's the little nuggets of hope and joy that life presents to us that allow us to keep going from day to day. There's those little glimmers of hope that make life worth living and make life worth staying for. So what is the little piece of hope that you're looking forward to? Comment below and let me know. If you or someone you know is struggling with suicide, addiction, self-harm, or depression, click the links in the show notes below to check out our mental health resource library. Furiosa, a Mad Max Saga is now playing in theaters everywhere from Warner Brothers Pictures. In the show notes below, you guys will also find links to not only our mental health resource library, but also our Patreon, our podcast network, more movie reviews, and that subscribe button. So hit it below, and that way that you guys never miss another movie again. Until next time, remember to stay classy and stay healthy in the wasteland.